Well, LSU's misses along the offensive and defensive line in high school recruiting, along with some questionable transfer portal decisions, cost them a chance at the 2025 national title.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the portal. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making the portal your first listen each and every day. Love talking recruiting, NIL, and the transfer portal. So come join us each every time you have a chance. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you join FanDuel, you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just check it out over at FanDuel.com. Today's show is about the LSU Tigers. The Bayou Bengals have a shot at a national title this next year. Brian Kelly's even said as much that they were coming for one. But I'm not so sure, and we need to examine it a little closer because they've made some interesting roster management moves, both with the high school ranks and the transfer portal over the last 2-3 years that might hurt them, especially if they have any injuries on the offensive and defensive lines. And those are the spots that we're primarily going to be examining on today's show. Football is won in the trenches. And to be honest, I've said this for many years, my favorite state in the country to scout in terms of D linemen is in the Bayou, down in Louisiana, man. It's great. But it wasn't quite as good in a few of the classes recently, and LSU didn't come up with the right players. This past class was insane. They knocked it out of the park, but you're not going to win national championships with freshmen at defensive tackle. How do they get it done if they don't get the kids out of the portal too? Because there weren't many to go and get in this cycle. We're going to go through that step by step. And to do it first, let's take an examination of what they've done. I'm going to use 24/7 Sports in terms of their ability to make it happen with rankings, where they're at, who they signed, maybe a few shortcomings, but we'll look at that right now. 2023, the Tigers came in fourth in the nation, according to 24/7. Really good recruiting class, 10 kids from Louisiana. But that was the class. There weren't many options at D tackle. They didn't really get anything there that's going to help them. So that's kind of a void. If you think about it, the 23 class, that's freshmen, then 2 years later, the juniors. So your junior class doesn't have anybody from a traditional standpoint that's a true junior that's going to be on that depth chart at D tackle. It's a big hole. They did again. They'll get 10 kids in Louisiana. That's always a good thing. The next season, 2024, LSU comes in ninth in the country, 18 kids from Louisiana. Love that. It's good for team chemistry, good for your locker room. Fans love it. They got 3 D tackles. They did well. Some of those guys are really good, but Dominick McKinley, who I had a chance to see at the Under Armour event, elite. That kid is from the Lafayette area, just a little bit west of Baton Rouge. Tremendous football player, great guy. And his hand technique and the ability to change up moves from play to play, I saw him destroy interior offensive linemen in one-on-ones. There's no doubt that he's a guy that I would not want any part of if I was a offensive lineman, because he knew when to go outside, inside, mix them up, keeping the lineman off balance from each play to the next. He's going to be an NFL player. You guys are going to have him for 2 more years, but he needs to stay healthy. Again, depth and numbers in the trenches, especially at D tackle, are key. The 23 class, we'll talk about that a little bit more coming back. But McKinley in the 24 class helps it, along with 3 guys overall. 2025, this is the one I kind of mentioned a minute ago. They got 4 DTs in this class. 4. Bo Davis knows what he's doing. They have great talent that they've got coming in. They got Brandon Brown, Zion Williams, Dylan Battle, and Walter Mathis. Zion Williams is probably the guy that I'm curious about the most. He's out of East Texas, 290-plus pounds coming out of high school. Can he help this year? Yeah. Does he need to start? No. But at least you're back on track. Starting in the 26th season, LSU will be fine. They might have as good a D tackle depth chart as there is in the country, because all 4 of those freshmen will have been through at least 1, if not 2 spring practices, and they'll have a lot more weight room training. They will be as deep as anybody. It'd be traditional LSU, as it should be. But is it enough now? Again, Kelly's already went out. He threw out the statement, hey, we're coming for a title this year, blah, blah, blah. They've got a good roster, and D tackle is a part of it. They're good there, but are they deep enough? Do they have enough talent at D tackle again, Dominick McKinley, not questioning that. Guillory, Sean Washington, they've got some pretty good talent. But except for McKinley, there's nobody there that I think is definite, like a guy that's just really talented and proven with some more upside. I don't know. I'm curious to see how that goes. Maybe Guillory ends up being a guy that gives him some more reps than I think, but they might be a little light. They do have Sadir Mitchell coming over from Texas. He's going to be in his third year. He was highly recruited out of New Jersey. Texas got him. Didn't get it done at UT, but he was recruited by the same guy that's now in Baton Rouge. So let's see what happens when you have that guy coaching him again. Maybe he'll figure it out and be another plug. He's 6'5", like 340 pounds. He's a great looking athlete. I think Sadir Mitchell could be a help in some cases, at least short yardage. On the other side of the ball at offensive tackle is the other key point here. When I saw the film of some of the guys that they had coming in that 23 class, I was going through just watching different kids. I knew that they were going to be good, but like Lance Hurd was a guy, he transferred because he couldn't play right away. Is that really their fault? I mean, maybe not, but when they lost him, they lost an offensive tackle you can't afford to lose. And now you lose both your offensive tackles a year early that were a year ahead of him. So you have 3 NFL kind of guys gone just like that. And it's not easy when you look at the list of kids they got. I mean, like losing Emory Jones and Will Campbell, they probably knew, but I hate putting it like this because they got hurt and they got hosed with him leaving. But they come up short because of 22 class, you get Campbell, who I thought was clearly the best tackle in the country. I really liked Hurd. And while I didn't think Emory Jones was going to be as good, especially as fast as he was at LSU, we knew he was really good. But you lose both those guys. Can they be good enough at offensive tackle? Tyree Adams as a kid from the 23 class, that's a player that they really liked a lot. And I mean, if you look at the list and all the kids they got coming in now, the 25 class, they loaded up on the line. But if he's not ready, do you have enough firepower to overcome a few more sacks, a few more fumbles, a few more hits to your quarterback? I mean, Nussmeier's great, but I don't know if a guy that always puts the ball in harm's way, it seems like at least once or twice more in a game than he should, if he can take more hits. Because, I mean, the left and right tackle situation at LSU last year was as good as it was in college football. So that concerns me. Again, I'm not blaming them for losing Lance Hurd, but he transferred to Tennessee because he wanted to play tackle, didn't want to play guard, and there was no place to put him. But that is going to bite them because they didn't get another guy in that class that's done anything. DJ Chester didn't work out. So you're void in the 23 class of any offensive tackles. Again, the junior class, that's 23, 24 now coming up on the 25 class. If you're LSU, got nobody pushing on the depth chart that you expected there in that sense. And, you know, you're lucky to have Tyree Adams. That's a guy that was good, but he was a 4-star. I don't know if they thought he was going to be this good, but is he ready to be the pure left tackle? I don't know. He's got the physical traits, but we just haven't seen it. If anything else, so he is from St. Aug in New Orleans. It's one of my favorite programs in the country. But I don't know if he's going to be ready, and they may not have anybody else that's capable of handling that spot if he's not. The other thing they can do, though, Weston Davis, a kid out of Texas that I really liked in this past class, 24, he's a redshirt freshman at right tackle. Maybe if he doesn't work at right tackle because, you know, or doesn't work at left tackle because Adams isn't ready, maybe Weston Davis gets a shot at it. I just think, once again, just like at D tackle, LSU might be a little bit short. And if you're short at tackle on offense or defense, it's just really rough. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about LSU's ability to build their roster, decision-making, and what they can do. That is next here on The Portal. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences for each week, you can come up with different lifestyle fits, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, or you can even go into different offers with smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. If nothing else, know that. Look at it this way. I've been trying to lose weight, eating a lot of protein, but there's a lot of mental preparation with it. It takes a lot out of my time. It's a good idea to look at something like Factor, and it's something I can use, and so can you, to save you time and money. So make sure you look at it from that perspective as well. And finally, it's convenience. You don't have to go to the grocery store on a whim to get something, to eat something healthy, to feel better and look better. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege 50 off and use code LockedOnCollege 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnCollege 50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Strategy for building a roster is not easy. There's a different way to do it each and every year. There was a lot being made about Brian Kelly not going all in on the transfer portal at D-tackle going into the 24 season. Well, this year, before anybody says, hey, we didn't get one again, there really weren't options. This was a bad portal year, and teams are spending a heck of a lot more money to retain. Those days are over. You must win at high school recruiting at D-tackle. Period. LSU did that in this class. We'll get to that in a minute. They did a tremendous job. But at the same time, how do you balance it? In general, again, I was going to focus on OT and DT in this to kind of define why I think LSU's on the cusp. They could win a national title this upcoming season, but an injury to Dominick McKinley, Tyree Adams, either one of those guys could be catastrophic to the LSU chances of even making it to the Final Four, let alone winning a national title. So should they have went all in last year, maybe going and getting a tackle from another school that was kind of waiting in the wings for one of the offensive tackles to turn pro? Now, they didn't know both were going to go, but at the same time, Will Campbell, I think, pretty safe bet. Anyway, they didn't do that. And at D-tackle, there weren't many options. What would you do differently? Is there a better way to go about this? Hitting the home run at recruiting isn't as easy as it sounds. I know it's LSU. But when you have those down years, and like the 23 class was, there weren't as many great tackles in the area on either side of the ball. How do you overcome that? You've got to find different ways to do it. And now in the age of NIL, maybe they're going to have to look at it differently. Kelly certainly used it more with the high school ranks. They had, obviously, Bryce committed for a long time before Michigan came in with a ridiculous offer. But at the same time, you're also thinking about it from this perspective. Protect your roster. The one thing that I do know is they kept their roster in pretty good shape. They added some really good receivers. The defensive secondary, I've got two guys I want to talk about in a minute that were really good. But what else could they have done? How do you not know if you're LSU? Like, you got classes coming up. Your guys are on the road. They're well aware that, like, a certain class, for whatever reason, it just kind of goes in cycles. Hey, in-state next year, not this class, but the one after, we're going to have to look at things differently than we normally do. The OT-DT situation ain't great, folks. They did not do themselves any favors at all. That's on LSU staff. Brian Kelly's, at the end of the day, he has to take that. He's a really good football coach, but he made an error. If you just add just one offensive tackle and defensive tackle that were upper echelon, in addition to what they signed in that 23 class, LSU might be preseason top 3 going into this next season. The question at offensive tackle, the question at defensive tackle from depth, those could keep you from winning a title. Let me give you an example. If you look at the playoff run from this past year from different teams, it's ironic, but the team that he used to coach, Notre Dame, was just massacred with injuries. They limped to the finish line. They were fortunate to be in the game at all against Ohio State because they didn't have as much talent, but 3 out of their top 5 D linemen were hurt. And they had 4 or 5 different guys start on the offensive, like offensive and defensive linemen. When you get that many guys hurt, it doesn't normally work out. I don't know if we'll see another run like that Notre Dame had. They found a way against Georgia. They found a way against Penn State. Great. That's going to be the exception, not the rule. If LSU's in that boat, again, I think Kelly's a really good coach. Are you going to be able to get over that hump? Right now, they didn't set themselves up for success the way I think they should, because in state, we knew a year in advance, and I cover Louisiana and love that state, 7-on-7, watching high school film, going there, etc. It's a tremendous state for recruiting, and especially linemen as a rule, but every now and then it's going to bite you. That 23 class might bite LSU. So the only advice I have is they should have known better, and they should have went into it looking at it differently and looking at more California kids, more Texas kids, more Georgia kids, more Florida kids, and really building relationships at that point. Now, Kelly's done a great job. He changed coordinators, and then that staff on defense is going to be way better moving forward. Getting Big Bo from Texas, like they did the right things there. Offensively, they've made the adjustments they had to. Nussmeier's still really good. And if anybody remotely thinks they're not going to be good at receiver, even though they lost some good players, I got another thing coming for you. That their depth chart at receiver is still, I would say, the 95th percentile of college football. I mean, really, like Barry Brown, Nick Anderson coming in. So have Aaron Anderson. I can't explain to you like how many schools would love to have Chris Hilton as a starter. He's a fifth-year senior at LSU, and he's a guy that, quite honestly, would start at probably 95% or more of the schools in the country. He's coming off the bench for LSU probably next year. He might start. It's possible, but that just puts it in perspective. You don't know. They have plenty of talent, and I don't think there's going to be any chance they don't throw it around. And at running back, electric. Caden Durham will have a great year. So offensively, that's why I'm not talking about the skill spots. LSU's done fine. When they needed to, they used the portal properly, and they've gotten kids out of Texas and Louisiana at wide receiver, running back that are great. That's traditional LSU. They should. They're in a good spot. Can you protect the blind side of your quarterback? Nussmeier's got to be standing up to throw it. And can you stop the run? Here's a couple of stats that I just couldn't believe for LSU just as a rushing defense. Just to give it an example, at D tackle. 140.1 yards allowed on the ground last year by LSU. That ranked 51st. LSU should never be 51st in the country in rushing defense. But that's a way, way, way better stat than the year before. 161 yards allowed by LSU. 87th. Coach House did not get it done. They had disarray in that locker room for some reason or other. I don't know what it is. I assume they'll be in the 120s, maybe even in the teens, 115 to 125 range. This next year be top 40 conservatively, maybe even get into the top 20. And if they do, then they're definitely going to compete for a major playoff spot, maybe even compete for the SEC title. But I need to see it. Are they going to have the injuries not go against them? They don't have enough depth, in my opinion, at D tackle. And offensive tackle, not many teams have a ton, but LSU probably didn't manage that as well as they should have either. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple of key guys that can play a bigger role for LSU this coming season and how the defense, I think, is going to be different with some transfer portal additions. That's the last part of this. LSU's done better with the portal than some think, even though the D tackle situation is not perfect. That is next on the portal. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get on it than FanDuel. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the tip-off, or if you want to watch the fourth quarter comeback and get in on the action, you can do so, and if you can look for a bigger payout too, because you can combine your bets on a same-game parlay. If you like the live betting feature, you can look at it from a player perspective, you can look at it from quarters, you can do it different things. Keep in on the action all game long. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Finding a few more DBs was really important for LSU. I think everybody can agree on that. I talked a lot about the trenches, but I did want to bring up some of the defensive backs and some of the things they got coming in to help make up for not getting an elite D tackle. And again, to my knowledge, there wasn't an elite D tackle for anybody to get the portal. Maybe there'll be one in the spring. I don't know. But I don't think there was. And they don't have terrible depth there, but getting one more would have been nice. So let's assume they don't. Did they get enough in the secondary to kind of help mitigate that? They got a couple of guys that I love. take it for what it's worth. And if I mispronounce names, I apologize. Monsieur Delane, Virginia Tech to LSU, 6'1", roughly 190 pounds, 4 picks. That's a great start. 54 tackles for corner. That's a lot. Had a tackle for loss and 7 pass breakups. Elite production. Virginia Tech, solid defense, but they're nothing great. And he was putting up those kind of numbers when the other team was probably trying to avoid him. That might be the most important addition that LSU had. And if you can't completely shut down the run, well, you better be really good against the pass. Something LSU hasn't been good at either. That's going to help them. A veteran presence to help young guys like DJ Pickett come along. A veteran guy that can also help them probably on special teams. Maybe they use him in a nickel role or something too to move him around. I don't know. But getting him on the field, getting him away from Virginia Tech was huge. Also, a kid that I really like, Tamarcus Cooley, 39 tackles this past season. He had 2.5 tackles for loss, a sack. He's 5'11", 205. He can play the nickel. Maybe he plays some safety. Depends on how they want to orchestrate their defense in Baton Rouge. But those two guys will help them mitigate. So while I've kind of been harsh on Kelly and the staff for not making the greatest decisions in the last couple of years, these were good, really good. And that might help them get over the top because in those close games, whether it's in Death Valley or on the road in the SEC, you're not going to get freebies. And remember, they start off this next season in the other Death Valley. So you got Clemson too. That's crazy. I'm curious to see how this goes, but if they can get enough production out of those two guys, get a little bit of luck with Dominick McKinley, not getting banged up too much, I think he could be first team all SEC at D tackle. He's that good, even though he's only a true sophomore. Love that guy. If they can get those two things to go their way, they got a chance to make it all the way to the national title game. I know that's a big if, and of course, again, Tyree Adams getting like your left tackle. I'm not sure they're where they need to be there. And if he gets hurt, I'm really unsure. But that's part of football. You need a little bit of luck on the injury front. The other questions about him, and this is just kind of overall, if you want to comment below, if you're on YouTube, fire away. Do you agree with their overall 23 and 24 for those classes, how they handled recruiting? And would you have done anything different? Or if you want to, you can take it this way too. Should they have done it a little differently with the NIL and the portal? Have at it. Second question, how ready will the young O-line, D-line be? Now, I'm all in on Dominick McKinley. I'm right here. Future 3-and-out guy at D-tackle for LSU. 100% sold. But I need to see some of the other guys. I'm not sure. Out of these questions, I usually answer some of these own questions. I really don't know. How will the young O-line, D-line be ready if they really get into a playoff situation, especially if they got to play a road playoff game? They got to go to Georgia or Ohio State or to Texas or something for a road. Like, those are hard places to go, man. Are those young guys going to be ready? You don't know until you're there, but the projection says it's going to be hard, and I'm not sure about anybody other than McKinley. Finally, 2025, the portal class, does it make up for the losses in recruiting? It's a heck of a portal grab. I mean, they did a great job overall. I just went over a couple of guys. They got an interior offensive line from Northwestern that's going to start. They got multiple DBs. They got multiple receivers. They did a great job. Will it be enough? It might be. I'm on that teeter-totter point. Again, I still want another tackle or something, but LSU's in a far better spot now than they were at this point last season. Finally, should LSU go all in, just futuristic, after this spring, and then especially the next couple of years, to get a D tackle if there is one? They're getting fewer and fewer in the transfer portal. Just your thoughts on it. If you have any thoughts, please fire away. This has been the Portal Podcast. I'm going to be here every day talking about recruiting, SEC, LSU, national perspectives, you name it, comparing recruiting classes, having major people on for like John Garcia Jr. from Rivals, national recruiting analyst, is going to come on my show every week. I did a show with him this week on Wednesday. Check that out, talking about recruiting, everything you can imagine, scouting 7-on-7, Under Armour events, looking at the rankings, talking about what 24/7 did or On3. Do I agree with them? A little bit of everything. LSU will definitely be one of the schools I talk about a lot. I've always been fascinated with LSU since I was a kid. And again, my favorite state to scout in the country for D linemen is Louisiana. It's a blast. So make sure you like, subscribe, and follow this podcast any way you can. You can find us if you search for it the Portal Podcast by just typing in Locked On the Portal. Again, that's Locked On the Portal. And then just type in Apple, Spotify, something like that. Whatever it is you try to do to get your pods, we will get you there. Everybody have a good one, and I'll see you again soon.